think sorcery is the best thing in Elden Ring, you're wrong. Hello my fellow Tarnished, and while the intro there was a little bit hyperbolic, however you find fun to play is of course the best way, it is undeniable that sorcery is that special mix of pure power and satisfaction whenever you blast down an enemy before they can even so much as blink. And today I want to highlight 5 sorceries that I think go a little bit under the radar, if you know what I mean. 5 sorceries that actually have, well, some serious kick to them that really should make them a firm part of your regular roster of magic options, and in a couple cases, using a couple specific combos, yeah, they really do reach overpowered levels of pure carnage, and that's what we like to see as wielders of the primeval current. And currently, primarily, we will begin with, you see what I did there? Crystal Torrent. Essentially, this belongs to the category of sorcery which is drink the infinite FP tier and blast the boss down in seconds, and there's not really much you can do about it. But it does it in a way that Comet Azure, or indeed another sorcery we'll talk about today, or indeed another sorcery we'll talk about today, doesn't. It's your shotgun blast option that covers a wider cone for a more agile enemy, but not so wide of a cone that all of the little shards of crystal miss, because each shard of crystal does its own independent damage. So if you hit every single one, well, it absolutely melts whatever you target. First of all, you get this from the crystal cave that you get taken to in the Selen questline. I'll link the full questline down below, but basically you go here, and then once you reach the final boss, it is the triple rotted crystalline, which is just an... I hate this fight so much. Though ironically, another one of the sorceries we'll be talking about today is perfect for it, but in any case, they will drop you the Crystal Torrent. It is quite an expensive spell, it is a high int requirement one at 47, but it basically acts as a perfect Comet Azure before you get Comet Azure, while being essentially just as damaging and better on slightly more mobile, but not too mobile, bosses. It really fits that kind of middle niche. So this, then, I would highly recommend you give it a go to. It's actually quite long range as well. The crystal pellets tend to travel for a really, really lengthy bit of distance before they disappear out of reality, and it's just really awesome to have an other option for a incredibly high damage, infinite FP, channelable spell that rips through enemies. The fact that we have 4 of them, yes, 4 of them, that work beautifully with that gem of a cerulean hidden tier is just awesome, and I do get the feeling a lot of people have just kind of passed over Crystal Torrent, either because of Comet Azure's existence, or because not everyone's been to this really obscure, hidden by an illusory wall cave in a random graveyard in Caelid, and that's totally understandable. So yeah, really wanted to highlight that one. Next up then is a little bit of death. Sorcery by the name of Ancient Death Rancor. I have done a full collection of every single one of the death sorceries, and I will also put that down below, but as I said in that video, and I reiterate now, this is the one that stands out. And it stands out in a way that's even more potent than I ever realized back then, and is definitely something to be considered when wanting something a little bit different from your regular sorcery memory slot allowance. First of all, the damage it does is incredibly respectable. Also, the stagger damage it does is incredibly respectable against normal trash enemies or light bosses like the Duelists or the Black Knives. It just permanently keeps them flinched, and they just can't do anything until you run out of FP, which is a while with said cerulean hidden tier. It absolutely hits like a truck, can one-shot the giant with one cast, which is always my benchmark for if something is really powerful, because that's quite the nice little feat. It's infinitely spammable, it's chargeable, so you can use the Godfrey icon for an extra 15% damage, and the fact there's so many little chasing balls of death means that against agile enemies it just keeps following them, which also works wonders in PvP. It's just a real gem of a sorcery, and if you actually use it with the Prince of Death staff with that 80 int, 80 faith to make it better than Lusat's, because yes, at that extreme level, it is actually better than Lusat's, even on a pure scaling perspective, and I have gone over the best glintstone staffs in length, which yes, I will also link below. It starts to turn into an absolute monster that just lets you effortlessly weave your way through basically anything, because you can cast so many before the first one even gets to the enemy. You can have like 3 clouds of the stuff in the air. They also explode on contact when you charge them, so they've got a tiny bit of AoE too. It's essentially just an incredibly efficient, useful, and reliable sorcery that doesn't require any gimmick or setup, that is just very potently naturally strong with a lot of benefits to it, from damage to stagger to speed of cast to just general use, and it is definitely one to consider. Next up then, let's talk, well, Rock Blaster. This is an absolute gem, and on first glance it's absolutely trash, and I blame no one for passing over this. I made a dedicated video to this sorcery because of just how good it can be. Essentially, imagine Comet as an infinite death laser, but you can move and re-aim it while still casting it. That's how good this is. And if you want to know how to do that completely from setup and guide and strategy, yes, I will link my dedicated video on that too, but it is very much worth mentioning in this underrated collection because it is exactly that. It is a sorcery that's out the box is absolutely trash tier, but when actually used in the right way, becomes an incredibly potent option, and the 4th of the 4 sorceries that work beautifully with the Cerulean Hidden Tier for a ridiculous amount of damage as you just hold the channel with infinite FP. And, as a little bonus, if I didn't need to sell you it already more, if you cast it with a staff in your left hand and nothing in your right, it is completely free. It doesn't cost FP, which means you can use it to just, well, literally, infinitely efficiently clear a level, or of course get through bosses. The explosion is massive and damaging and goes through shields, and it's really quite useful in that regard, never mind the whole press the staff against something and watch it disintegrate before you. I do think it might be deliberate. I did say in the previous video covering this that it's probably a bug that it works like this, but then again, the glintstone miners do have to endlessly cast it to mine, so maybe it's just representing that it costs no FP, though it does seem potent if that's the case. But in any case, definitely consider this. Combine it with Iron Jar Aromatic and just become an unstoppable walking death tank of sorcery burn. Then we're going to talk about one that you probably do know the most on this list, probably do use the most on this list, but still one that I think really needs to be highlighted, and that is the Meteorites of Astel. Gotten from the Astel clone in this cave in the consecrated snowfield. Hello! And he's an even more amped version and quite the bastard of a fight, but certainly worth claiming the price that he drops. This then is in that category of 4 sorceries that work with a Cerulean Hidden Tier that you just channel for ages and melt bosses, but this is the one for big bosses, dragons and the like, that cover a huge area so multiple meteors can hit them, and it just absolutely obliterates. It's also fantastic for large groups of enemies too, if you want to use it that way, and while it's not great in PvP, it is amusing to rain down meteors and watch someone panic roll through them as they realize, oh wait, this is actually quite easy to avoid, but that initial impact is very much fun. Each meteor does an absolutely solid amount of damage, one-shotting minor enemies, and then obviously against big boss health pulls. I mean, it's just great. This is a really good Elden Beast killing machine if you can actually get it off, because of how chunky he is too, and essentially you just got to look at this as your widest range boss melting option, with Crystal Torrent being kind of medium, and then Comet being the pinpoint but most damage, and then Rock Blaster being the melee. They're kind of your 4 stages of I'm just going to hold this and the boss will die, and you can choose whichever is right for the situation that you're in, and between them all, there really isn't a single boss in the game that you can't kill in the 10 seconds of infinite FP, and that's really, really awesome. So yeah, definitely wanted to mention mention that. And of course, grab the Meteorite staff, hold it in your offhand for a 30% damage boost to it, which just makes it even more ludicrous. The same way that you, of course, would buff Crystal Torrent with the Crystallian staff too, although that's an extra 15%, not 30%. Finally then, let's talk a little bit of a wild card choice, and that is Fear's Mist. You get this from Gowry after he sells you sorceries and incantations as you progress far enough through the Millicent questline, or wait till the end, kill him, get his bell bearing, and buy it from the Twin Maiden Huss, doesn't matter which, and this one is very curious. Essentially, it is an indiscriminate cloud of death. It will damage you, it will damage the enemy, it can be charged to cover a massive area, and it's also incredibly hard to boost the damage of it. Sorcery scaling hardly affects it. Boosting your magic damage basically doesn't affect it. The only way you can really amp it is just the global boosts that affect everything, like Golden Vow, like the Jellyfish Shield. Believe me, I did a lot of experimenting with this sorcery. And the reason I really like it is because, one, it can hit things through walls because it's a big cloud really easily, but you can also combine it with Cold Mist and have both a frostbite building and damaging mist. You can get it to do like 2,500 damage a pop, but the main reason is here, it's just how unique it is. In any situation where you're not confident with a boss, you can essentially just cast this and then run around in circles and the boss just slowly melts and dies in it, and it's really useful utility that way. And obviously against a crowd of enemies, it completely melts them down. In PvP, it's really hard for someone to fight you near it because they have to kind of weave and out, run through it. Obviously it will damage you too, but you're aware of it and you can use that to your advantage, and it's just a really fun sorcery. It's got a lot of utility in the situations it is good. It's really good. You can do a lot of cheesy stuff with it. Run up, fire it, run away, wait for it to finish ticking, run back, fire it, run away, and just kill enemies well without them ever having a chance to actually retaliate if you're fighting something that can't follow you, like it's too big in a room and it can't get in the corridor, so on and so forth. It really does let you be a little bit cheap in a lot of situations, and it just functions essentially like nothing else in the game does, and it's definitely worth your time considering. I just really wish, like its contemporary in previous Souls, it didn't actually make enemies angry with you, it just made them sit there and take the damage. Then it really would be broken. But there you have it, guys. 5 sorceries that you really should look into more, consider more, use more, because they're a lot of fun, very powerful, and in a lot of cases, well, the best at what they do. Let me know if any of this was eye-opening. Please subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss more tips, tricks, guides, funny bits, all that good stuff in future. Like if you did enjoy this, and consider supporting the future of this channel and its continued existence on Patreon down below. Until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice. To reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.